We can divide the responses to Tarot's real history into 4 groups. The first is complete acceptance. Those who accept that Tarot has no occult origin maintain their use in divination and the occult by different means. Some will say that the cards are now used by occultists to represent their spiritual beliefs, and so, in that context, they do represent them. This is perfectly correct, but at a sacrifice, as it robs the cards of any intrinsic meaning that is often desired. With regards to divination, it may be said that the power of divination does not lie within the cards, but within the diviner. The cards only provide a focus, so it doesn't matter where they come from. The second is a partial acceptance. This usually means that facts are accepted but are augmented with some spurious assertions to force a more fantastical conclusion. The third is the one of many theories response. Of course, there are many theories, in the common use of the word, but not all theories are equal. However, people like to suggest that they are, quickly brushing over the supported theory to present whatever spurious one they happen to prefer. Finally, there's the denial of all but the bare minimum, perhaps giving dates of the oldest packs, albeit often incorrect, and some mention that they were once used for card games. Complete acceptance is not all that common in my experience, whereas the later responses are what you would ordinarily see, essentially a different number of facts used to dress a fantasy with a little more credibility than it probably deserves. Looking at many websites and books, the knowledge of Tarot's history, whatever the response to it, is often very poor, with numerous dates pulled from nowhere. The lies of Coeur de Javelin and Paul Christian continue to be quoted as facts, and spurious links to ancient beliefs defended by the likes of experts think, or the majority opinion is, as if knowledge were a democracy. The experts referred to, of course, tend to be occultists, not historians. Why are things this way? The financial concerns of those who make a living from occult tarot, and the fact that so many people have invested so much of themselves, even to their very identities, in the occult tarot, that it could be devastating for them to give it up. Before we move on, I should make a little mention regarding the modern myth of the Grail heresy, and the claims that tarot cards somehow represent Arthurian legends, or according to some truths, connected to it. This notion had relatively little following until the publication of the Da Vinci Code, and there are 2 principal sources for this myth that I know of. The first of these is Margaret Starbird, who was cited by Dan Brown. Frankly, I have little patience for this sort, as Starbird herself admits in her Google Knoll article that she has not read any of the recognised works of history on the subject. By her own admission, this is not a person in a position to be writing a work of history. Another source of note is the British author Graham Phillips, a man who claims to have located the Holy Grail egg cup, the last resting place of Mary, the remains of the Ark of the Covenant, all conveniently in the United Kingdom, saving him a fortune in plane fares, no doubt. In 2 of his books he cites a forgotten poem called The Folly of Percival, even giving the BN number of the folio that holds it. The poem tells the story of the Fisher King, and the characters listed all seem to fit the figures of the tarot trumps. If true, then that it would certainly be quite a find. However, while the cited folio does exist, there is no record of this poem ever having been a part of it, and although Phillips makes claims about what scholars have to say about the piece, he doesn't cite any of them, and the only other references that I have been able to find to it are references to Phillips. Given his poor knowledge of the history of playing cards, in particular with regards to the origin of the Queen and the Joker, this should cause some concern. I am not the only person to have attempted to contact him via his website and via his publisher, but he has yet to answer, and I consider his silence to be damning. At last we can turn our attention to divination, though this might disappoint you. The truth is that this, perhaps the part of our discussion of most interest to people, is going to be short. There really is very little to say. First of all, I should elaborate on the matter of burden of proof and of extraordinary claims. Some tarot readers feel picked upon when skeptics place the burden of proof with them, sometimes calling it arrogant. When we talk of people making extraordinary claims, we mean claims that would contradict the established body of academic knowledge and understanding, in our case in science and philosophy. By this, of course, we mean that there is good reason already to reject the claim, and it is against this that we expect the claimant to accept burden of proof and show how either that the existing body of knowledge and understanding is wrong, or to show how their claim is consistent with it. All extraordinary claims made under any discipline must meet this requirement. Well-known examples that come to mind include from physics, cold fusion, which of course was found false, and from biology, the claim that stomach ulcers, or most stomach ulcers, are caused by a bacteria, found correct and won Nobel Prize. It is not arrogant presumption that leads the skeptic to place the burden of proof on the tarot reader, but just good and standard academic practice. Tarot readers are being given equal treatment with all others in this. If they want special treatment, then they need to make a very special case for it. Claims to divine the past and the present are usually clouded with controversy regarding what is called cold reading, where the sitter provides the diviner with the information, other details are guessed or deduced, and are again confirmed by the sitter. Of course, it should be possible to record such a reading and examine it for information revealed by means that can have no other explanation, yet still this has not been achieved. However, divination of the future should not be subject to quite the same debate, and this is what makes it the focus for most skeptical inquiry. Readers who divine the future fall into three groups. The first makes forecasts that are specific enough to be testable. These claims can be called scientific, but the skeptic will point out that Mr. Randy still has that $1 million. The second makes forecasts that are just too vague to be given an interpretation before the facts, and so while perhaps in principle testable, they are not testable in practice. The third claims only to make forecasts of a possible future that is subject to change if known. This claim can account for any test result, positive or negative, and therefore is, in principle, untestable. Because the last two groups cannot be tested against the opposing position, we describe them as unscientific. The skeptic will then turn back to the burden of proof. Those who make claims that are testable can at least hope to meet the challenge, though after all the years that these claims have been subject of study, they have yet to do so. But for those who make unscientific claims, it is a challenge that cannot be met. As such, they cannot provide any reason to believe their claims.